All right, so we didn't really set out to create a hit show together, but there it was, and then you guys canceled it, so thanks.
It's back.
It's back. And then, Tram, I remember you guys going to Denmark and having a next phase in our relationship. Why don't you describe a trip to Denmark and what you guys stumbled on there?
So we had an opportunity to go to Billund and go to the Lego headquarters and the Lego factory, which is awesome. There's a giant river of Legos. There's a room where you can eat every Lego. I'm sorry, that's a different factory. It was really cool, and again, at this point, I think we had a really strong relationship with them and they with us, and we were in a room talking about different things, and somebody said, hey, can we show you this thing that we're just kind of have this idea for this thing. And they brought out this, again, very early stages, very nascent in its development, but it was this notion of getting away from the minifig idea and actually creating characters out of Legos. Which we, with kind of googly eyes on their heads. And we took to it immediately and we said, this is something we'd like to talk to you guys about maybe more. In a aggressively short amount of time, we went from just, we'd like to talk about it, to talking about it, to doing it, to producing it. And producing it in a way that was very different than how we normally produce things, which is let's develop a series and then everything follows after. It was a true multi-platform development.
All right, so describe the property. Here it is. Here, has anyone seen this? It's Mixels. So Mike, can you describe what this is? Or,
sure.
Yeah.
So essentially, I don't know if we have some photos of the actual product, but there are Lego elements here where you can actually build the characters and in different forms and fashions, but the beauty of it is that because it's Lego, you can actually mix and match the different elements to create other new characters with different powers and things like that. So the whole idea is around mixing characters, hence the name. And this gives you a little bit of an idea as to how the characters translate into toys. So you can see that even visually, my sense is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tram, but when the folks from Cartoon Network saw this stuff in Denmark, they immediately saw an aesthetic there that felt very Cartoon Network-ish. So there's been a very good synergy there as it relates to the product experience and the show experience, and then also the digital experience.
So, everyone, we had 12 months, you guys, to make this. Let's describe for people what the elements of it were. What was it exactly?
Lots and lots of phone calls
Yes.
at weird hours of the day for somebody in some part of the world. So no, I would have to say the team at Cartoon Network was absolutely fantastic in working with us. And what was really refreshing was how much they understood what our goals and objectives were for this, and they really took that on board. And everything from the names, the descriptions of the characters, was a fully integrated. I don't think we've ever worked with another company in such a fashion, and that went so smoothly. So I think it was really something. It would have never happened, I think, if both companies were not fully on board in the same way. So.
And actually, I think there's a really interesting dynamic that goes on in these discussions, because oftentimes it's like, well, are you guys getting enough out of this? Are we really hitting the objectives of you? And then likewise on the other side, are you guys getting it?
Yeah, it's Chip and Dale. It's like, no, you first.
Right,
No,
yeah.
you first.
So,
So this was it was toys within a year. It was a series of shorts in a year. It was an app, a game app in a year, and a website, and branding and packaging and toy spots that we all jointly made together. Why did we think, I guess you just gave the reason of why we thought it could happen in a year. Why did we pick a year? That's the real question. Tram, have you ever worked on a project this quick before?
No, never. And again,
and you're dying to do it again.
Yeah, actually, well, I was going to say, and it actually ended up being one of the most fun things that I've ever worked on because of the time. It was an interesting process because, like I said, we went from just kind of talking about it to really engaging in it. And so one of the first things that we had to do was bring artists in that we thought would be right for the project. And we didn't really want to tell them exactly what it was yet, people in the studio, but eventually we had to start giving more detail. And we said, well, we're working with another company on this. And generally artists that, could maybe be put off by that, but we did say it was Lego, and people were like, Lego? Because every single, you go to any of the artist spaces in our studio, and there's Lego stuff. It's, these are for a lot of these artists, this was one of their first ways they created, was with Lego. So everybody was really excited to work on it. And there was this, again, even though this was a partnership, keeping artists at the center, it was really sort of this open door of, what would you do with this? How would you develop this? What would you create around this? And we got back some amazing stuff that we didn't necessarily could use, or wasn't quite right for what we were doing.
Yeah, here,
but it was.
I'll show some concept art, and we can. Chris, you're getting pretty far along there. Let's see. You have 37 minutes, Chris.
So at one point we had this notion that Mixels were these creatures that came from the ground. And with a sort of a live action blend. So John Fang, who was the artist here, actually took live pictures, and added characters into it. And I think so this notion that, this digging in the earth. And again, this isn't necessarily part of we don't say put live action plates. So this is this idea of there's a Lego layer in the earth that gets dug through at one point. But again, this is just this very open door idea of just create and give us great ideas. And there was no mistake. There's a philosophy at Cartoon Network, and I say at Turner Networks in general, of less fear, more fun. And I think that this project was absolutely that, because even though there was this deadline, it made everybody much more creative. It made everybody a lot more engaged, and there were no bad ideas. It was all great ideas and brainstorming that we were able to put together to create the final idea of Mixels. So yeah, it'd be fun to do something like this again in that time.